In this week's episode of Studio Inter, we'll be reviewing the win against Sampdoria, previewing the two upcoming games against Rapid Vienna and Fiorentina, this week's Moggi, Moratti, Frog, and Inter Legends, plus much more. Everything here on Studio Inter, only on SempreInter.com.
Ecco Perisic, 1 contro 1, gioco di gambe, guadagna il fondo, il cross, Icardi, e gol, 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 Maurito il Mamba!
Sono i blocchi nell'area di rigore, arriva la palla, la prende Vecino, che segna solo contro le romane, segna il gol del 3-2
per una vittoria eccezionale, eccezionale.
Bentornati to another edition of Studio Inter. I'm your host Nima, Tavallaey, wishing everyone a warm welcome to a new week, 2 wins, and quite a lot of drama since the last time we spoke. I've usually one of the things I joke about with my friends is that one human year is about 25 Inter years, just like one human year is 7 dog years. But Inter really took that on because a lot of stuff has happened in the past 7 days. And in helping me to unpack all of that, I'm joined by the host of the Alex Donno show, a beardless Mr. Alex Donno. Welcome.
Thank you. Even though you took my captain's armband away, you cannot expel me from this show.
Oh, dear. And we are also joined by the Inter Legends writer on SempreInter.com and soon also on SempreInter TV on YouTube. Welcome, Mr. Critty Smith.
Hey, Nima, how's it going?
I'm good. You how are you doing? You feeling better?
I'm good.
Good. And we're also joined by our good friend who writes for SempreInter.com, Serpents of Madonnina. He's on at least 3 different London radio shows as a media personality, Will Beckman.
Yeah. I think that's what you call our artistic license.
Yeah, that's it. And
would like to make it clear to the team that I'm not going to be taking part in this podcast unless you give me that captain's armband back. I'm on strike.
And making a return back to Studio Inter for the first time this season, he's making his he's the Piontek of Studio Inter. He used to be on calciomercato.com, commentator, editor on DAZN, ex-commentator for DAZN, ESPN FC, Inter correspondent, Mr. Edoardo Dalmonte.
Oh, I love the reference. And he scored 2 goals for me this weekend. I bought him at Fantasy Football. Yeah, boy.
Well, we're all eager to get going, and I think let us get going because there is so much to talk and so much to unpack. Right. First things first. The game against Sampdoria was precipitated by quite a lot of drama and weirdness, general weirdness, and since then we're on. We played Sampdoria in a game that was surprisingly Inter performed surprisingly well, or at least so I think. I did not see this performance coming, but before we get into all of that, I'm keen to hear what you think, Alex. I mean, when I was watching this game, I did not, I can't remember the last time Inter played and attacked in such a varying way, with such variety, with such fantasy, with such unity. First of all, what do you take away from that?
I took away that they showed a ton of fight, and I really thought that Inter showed a ton of heart. As far as individual performances go, I have not seen that version of Ivan Perisic since the World Cup with the Croatia shirt on. I thought he was unbelievably good in that game. I thought that we saw, one of, if not the best versions of Raja Nainggolan that we've seen in an Inter shirt. Lautaro didn't score, but I thought he showed a ton of fight. And you can say that for the majority of the players who were on the pitch in the Inter shirt. I know Matteo Politano's performance was criticized, I think rightfully so, but he did have a couple of moments, specifically in the first half, where really I thought everyone, they looked up for that game in a way that you haven't seen that team look up and motivated for games for the better part of this season. And the fact that coincided with all of the Icardi and Wanda drama. It made me feel good as an Interista, to see this team when, they're facing the most adversity and facing the most outside criticism we've seen for, even by Inter standards, for quite some time. To see them rise to the occasion the way that they did, I was very happy to watch the way that they performed in that match. And like you, Nima, I was not expecting it.
No, I didn't. I really didn't expect that. And I thought what really impressed me the most, as I said, is how the movement, it wasn't just the classic out on the wing and crosses and inshallah and hope for the best. There was actual thought behind everything. There was movement. There was link up play. There was Perisic, like you said. I mean, that was his best performance since the World Cup final. But another player though. Raja Nainggolan. Now it's 3 matches in a row that he's been playing really well. He's working towards his form. Will, do you think that we will ever see the Roma Raja, or is he hitting his highest level now?
Well, I think more than the Roma Raja, it's the Spalletti Raja that we would like to see, because let's remember, Nainggolan didn't really score goals before Spalletti put him in that position, and that was the hope that. When we signed him, that he would start being that player again, having had a bit of a dodgy season with Di Francesco for whatever reason. If you're asking me, will he are his best performances still ahead of him? I would say no. I think he's crossed 30 now in terms of years. So in theory, his trajectory should be slowly downwards over the next few years, but that doesn't mean that he can't still play very well. I mean, the player that we're seeing at the moment is the player that Inter thought they were signing. That's the reason that no one thought that getting rid of Zaniolo would be a terrible idea, because Raja would be decisive all season, and he hasn't really. Well, I suppose you could say he's been decisive in a negative sense, on a couple of occasions.
Well, he let's be fair. He has, after the age of 30, realized that you can't smoke and drink and be a world-class athlete, and I guess that's good that he's come to that realization. I mean,
yeah. He
he
seems genuinely determined to sort of repair his relationship with the club and the supporters, because it was pretty toxic in and around Christmas, and that's a very positive sign.
That's a really positive sign. Like all jokes aside, that is a real positive sign. And I mean, Critty, you and I joked about it quite a bit. We've all joked about it a little bit, that he's cut his nightclubbing hours from 5 a.m. to 2 a.m. and all that stuff. But he really does look sincere. Do you agree with Will that he will, his best days are behind him, or do you think that we can? That he can maybe reach those heights again, or does it even matter? I mean, the Raja we saw against Sampdoria, that's a pretty decent one.
Yeah, his best days are behind him. I mean, there's no doubt about that. He's probably done enough abuse on his body with all the drugs and alcohol over the years that it's. I think Will said this last week. It's hard. Your body. It's hard to come back from that at 30. However, that said, if he can contain himself and maintain this form, then I don't see anything wrong with that. I think that's the player. I don't think anyone thought we were going to get Nainggolan on an upswing with still potential in his career. I think we thought we were getting kind of a complete player. This is what we saw at the Roma was kind of what we were going to get, maybe a slightly lesser version of that. And I think that we are now seeing that. So I think that as long as Nainggolan can hold this form and be a consistent contributor, so a guy who can be relied upon, doesn't make that many mistakes, can go forward and attack, is the enforcer that we thought he could be, then I have absolutely no problem with the guy that we signed this past summer. However, I will say it took 5-6 months to get to that point, and it looked like at Christmas it was going to be a quick sell, quick house flip, as you say, a quick flip and fixer upper turnaround with him right back out the door. So I'm happy to see this. But as Inter's performance goes, you either collapse and give up, or you rise to the occasion and you guys overcome adversity. And Inter's showing some freaking heart, man. They are showing determination that they're not going to go quietly into the night. And as you said, I mean, Alex stole it right from the show's start. Yeah, Perisic, man, it's nice to see you since July. First time I've seen you since July, buddy. So great performance by him. Could not have been more happy with that guy. He looked like he was pissed off when he wasn't getting his way. He was fighting. He was clawing. He was just nonchalant. He was always nonchalant, running around the pitch like he just didn't care for the past 5 months. It looked like he cared. It looked like Perisic cared for the first time in an Inter shirt since last May. So all in all, I'm very happy with that performance against Samp.
Speaking of passion and caring, Edo, you and I have through the years, how should we put it, diplomatically, been slightly critical of a certain Danilo D'Ambrosio, but seriously though, I mean that performance, those 80 minutes, he was world class in my opinion. I mean, he was absolutely brilliant.
Don't do this to me. Don't do this to me.
No, you have to. You got to face the music here, man. He was like, I mean, I've been with you all the way. I thought that he's okay at best, and he's whatever. But come on, I mean that game and his entire trajectory development under Spalletti has been just going up and up and up. And I mean, usually fullbacks develop, they reach their peak at. I knew you were going to bring that up, but no, I mean, if we're traditional, I mean, Maicon wasn't world class until it was 28-29. He was good before that, but it was when he was 28-29 that he was brilliant for the next 4 or 5 years. I mean, I'm not making any the not Maicon jokes aside. I mean, he's 30 now, so maybe if this continues, he really could have a role to play, I think, at Inter. I mean, what are your thoughts?
Do you remember that one season under Mazzarri when Nagatomo got like 5-6 goals? Do you remember that?
Yeah.
I mean, everyone can have an outlier. Look, man, D'Ambrosio, okay, respect for how he's played recently. And I don't think it's a coincidence, by the way, that there's talk of a new contract just at the time when Icardi is like getting on everyone's nerves. So I think like D'Ambrosio is certainly very appreciated in Milan. Like in that dressing room, he is the hype guy. He's one of the people who you go to and whatnot. He's the kind of person that you really like and you want to do well. And whenever they do something well, and he's got the penchant for the occasional good shot. He is not unlike myself on sports teams. But if you just replace him with someone better, you still wouldn't miss him. You'd miss him in the dressing room, but I don't think you'd miss him on the pitch. Like, I'm being very unflattering here, but
yes, you are. You're not being very nice to him at all.
You're very saying I could do what he does.
Yes,
that's your compliment.
That's exactly what you're saying.
I mean,
fantastic performance. That could have been me.
That could have been me. No, I mean, he almost skied that ball, by the way. But no, look, he has a penchant for really good plays, and it's more just the sort of consistency. And you were talking about earlier how our game plan was, to put a cross in and pray. Well, he was kind of party to that for a while. You didn't feel like you really got the added value. Hey, respect, and if you can keep playing like this, I'm very, very happy. And by all means, he's not mega old. If he can play well until the end of the season, that's good. But I still don't see. I mean, I'd like to keep him around as a squad player, but no more really. I've got to be. I'm sorry, Nima. I'm not changing my mind on this.
No, I'm not changing my mind either. But when we talk about passion and dedication and giving your all,
that's your guy.
That's your guy. I mean, he really does. He works his socks off, but now he's also giving us quality. And usually, I mean, last season it's been quality in terms of defense, but in attack not at all. And his crossing has been pretty awful. But against Sampdoria, I thought that he was really, really good in everything. I mean, I think those 80 minutes were the best 80 minutes he's played since coming to Inter. He was simply phenomenal. For me, he was the man of the match, and I'm not exaggerating. And I'm not his biggest fan, but I think you got to give credit where credit is due. For me, he was the man of the match. I don't know if you guys agree with me or not. Will, do you agree?
Well, I would say that he does have this ability to be decisive in unexpected moments. I would agree that he doesn't. He's not the world's best attacking fullback. I think that's pretty clear. I mean, I remember the first couple of years, it just looked like no one had ever taught him to cross. I remember seeing videos on Twitter of, those sort of 60-second round-up videos of them in training, and he wouldn't even cross well in those. It was like, bloody hell, we've got to go back to basics here. Go back to school and learn how to cross the ball. But I would. So in that sense, I do agree. But you know, he did have some important moments last year. I mean, I remember the game against Genoa in San Siro when he scored the winner with 3 minutes left. And the reason I like that game was because Spalletti, a couple of months later, told us this sort of thing about how he told a story about how that goal came from a corner, and D'Ambrosio wasn't supposed to go up for that corner. It was he told D'Ambrosio to stay back, but Danilo sort of felt that he could score from this corner. So he asked him, "Can I swap with someone else so I can go forward?" And I think he got Santon or someone to come and stand on the halfway line. He went forward and scored the winner. You know, so that's kind of leadership in a sense. And then the game against the other one I remember is the one against Atalanta last season. You know, Icardi scored both goals. It was 2-0, but he was basically responsible for both of those goals. You know, one of them was a free kick. It was a cross from a free kick, but he charged up the pitch and won it. And then the other one was his assist, having sprinted forward and won the ball back. You know, so he does have these. He is a very dedicated player, and I think maybe his best quality is that he knows his limits, and he kind of accepts them and just tries to do what he can reasonably do. So yeah, I find it difficult to dislike him, even though he is incredibly limited as a fullback. If we're talking about, you know, Inter going on to fight for the Scudetto, he's not really the player you'd want. But that's not to say I'd want him to renew his contract. I don't know that. I mean, I guess you could, because provided he doesn't start. I'm just worried that, you know, we have such a bad reputation with signing fullbacks that it'll be 2021 and the team will be full of good players and we'll still have him at right back. You know, I'm just a little bit just worried that something's going to happen if we just keep renewing him. But I do like him, and he was excellent. So.
No, I think we should renew him, and I think he's a squad player. He is, because I mean, you want those kind of players. I mean, if your squad players have that kind of commitment to the cause, then I think you're in a good place. I mean, that's where I am, and I agree with everything you said there, Will. Alex, let's talk about the elephant in the room. And I'm just gonna give the word to you, and then everyone else can feel free to jump in, because basically what happened after last week, Inter took the captaincy away from Mauro Icardi. Because of pretty much because of an accumulation of things that we've been talking about on this show that have happened, and what I want us to talk about now is basically, is there any way back from here? And I'm going to start with you, Alex, and then the rest of you can jump in whenever. I mean, where do Inter go from here? Can this relationship really be repaired? What are your thoughts?
I think it can be, but I think that the ball is now in Mauro's court. And of course, you can throw Wanda into that mix because, you know, I don't know, maybe I overreacted a little bit to Wanda on Tiki Taka. And then, you know, you had Marotta call in and seem to ease, you know, some of the concerns that people may have had that Inter was completely shutting him out. I still think that management and Spalletti, you know, for however much longer Spalletti is around, of course, do view Icardi as an important player. And I don't believe that they are trying to shut him out of the club completely. I would like to believe that the decision to strip his captaincy is independent on, you know, whatever sort of contract renewal they offer him. So I do feel there is a road back, but I think that is at this point wholly dependent on Icardi's attitude. How does he reintegrate himself? What will it be like the next time he steps into that dressing room? I know he's nursing a pretty suspicious knee injury at this point, but once they try to fully reintegrate him to the squad, I think the way that he handles it and the way the locker room accepts him back means a lot. Now, if you ask me, am I expecting a yes or no answer? Do I expect Icardi to be an Inter player next fall? My answer would be no, but I do think that maybe it's a little bit closer than some think. I think it's probably 55-60% he gets sold in the summer, but still a 40-45% he's back. I think at this point, the ball is in Wanda and Mauro's court to see how they can repair that relationship.
I take it that Will has another opinion on this. Am I right?
No, I was nodding to everything there.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. Really? No, I mean, this is Icardi's problem to solve. You know, like Beppe Bergomi said it best on Sunday. You know, he said if Icardi is waiting for Inter to apologise to him, then it means that he's not understood anything, and that's the worry that I have, because it seems like he sees this as unjust. But, you know, having dissected it and thought about it a lot over the last few weeks, and having read into what has been said, what has been reported, it makes complete sense that this would happen. And I think what I didn't appreciate when we were recording last week was exactly what Wonder had said in the last edition of the world's most vomitful program ever, known as Tiki Taka.
It should be called Tiki Taki.
The only way that
it should be called Tiki Taki.
The only way that program could be worse is if it were presented by Maxi Lopez. That's the only way it could get any worse. That was all that we were missing on Sunday. Look, he says that, it's not fair. Well, we think he says that, but I mean, it was an automatic decision. This wasn't a decision taken by the club. It was a decision taken by the players. It's the players, it's his teammates who have dethroned him, as it were.
I mean, we should be honest. I mean, based on what everyone has said, this is not just as you said, it's not the club. This is Spalletti. This is a majority of that dressing room. This is everyone from the groundsman all the way up to the CEO. This was a collective decision. They've decided that this isn't working. And when you go on Tiki Taka and say things like the lies about Mauro, you don't know if they come from inside or outside the club, followed by, if I could choose between the contract renewal and Mauro getting 5 decent passes per game, I choose the latter. I choose the latter.
What was different? What was different about
that.
last week? Yeah. What was different about last week is that she, for the first time, maybe for the first time, she wasn't just criticizing, Auxilio and Moratti. She went into the dressing room, figuratively speaking. Like she was calling out his teammates, and that is a line that cannot be crossed. And if I'm Icardi's teammate and I hear that the man that I helped become top scorer last year with 29 goals has a wife and agent who goes on television and says that basically we're crap, I'm not going to like that at all, and I will not recognise him as my captain. And I think that's that's why this has happened. Icardi is no longer the captain of that squad, whether or not he has the armband physically on his shoulder. Those comments have delegitimized him, and until he either apologises for what has been said or makes some attempt to defend his teammates, or make some kind of step towards them in any sense, he can't have that armband. It's simple. The club have not. That's why I do believe Moratti when he says it's got nothing to do with the contract renewal. I don't think it has anything to do with his renewal.
Nothing.
This is
absolutely nothing.
They
to
are
do with
two separate issues.
Completely separate. And people don't understand that. And I've been battling people on Twitter saying that you have to separate the two. The new contract has nothing to do with this. No. It's these comments, and you have to understand these comments are made in you have to see it as a step, as a ladder as well. I mean, I was saying this a couple of months ago when she started throwing the club under the bus, that this is unacceptable and that you can't do that. And then you have to put that into the context that he then, after this, when they started attacking Gazzetta, he then goes out and says that Wanda will be my agent until the end of my days, pretty much, until as long as I have played football, she will be my agent. That means that he's backing her as his agent to speak for him. And then everything is calmed down for a bit, and then she goes out and says all of this again. Look, when you put all of this into context, the situation becomes untenable. You have a captain who's openly criticizing the club. You have a captain whose agent is putting stuff out in the media saying he won't renew with the team, which she did with the TYC Sports in Argentina, which she quickly walked back. And then you have the situation that she goes into the dressing room. For me, it's not just one line that's been crossed. It's several lines that have been crossed repeatedly by not his wife, his agent. That's what's relevant. His wife saying things. It's like when wags say stupid things all the time, and then somebody comes out and apologizes, and that's the end of it. But this is his agent. He has doubled down that this is his agent and this is his representative. And I personally do not see any way out of this other than a departure in June. I know Inter don't want to. I think because that will mean they will look weak. And they don't want to be bullied into selling their prized asset, but I don't see any way you can repair this. Sure, for the short term, absolutely, but I don't think Mauro's ego will allow him to return another season as if he's not the captain. And I don't think that a captaincy is something you're owed; it's something you're honored with, and that is where
the root problem was was, in hindsight, was 2015. He should not have been given that armband as a part of his, as like a bone, an added extra for his contract renewal. You know, and I think what he's done, what he did after being stripped of the captaincy, is the most blatant proof that I've seen in the last 3 years that he wasn't the right person to wear it. You know, to be thrown out of your comfort zone, which you've been in for the last 3 years, and refuse to roll your sleeves up, is extremely disappointing. You know, he cannot refuse that call up on Thursday against Rapid Vienna. That was for me, that was more disappointing than anything he's done or anything that's been said in the last 6 months, because it shows that, you know, he thinks that he's in this comfort zone, and the moment he's out of it, he feels he doesn't know how to act. You know, he's spent 3 years saying that, you know, I love Inter and I want to stay here, and I believe him, but you've got to show it. You know, that was the moment to go and play. You know, it's not. Why should you have to be captain in order to play? It was extremely disappointing, and as I said, we're going to have to see how this works out, because, you know, we've got this very strange scenario where, I mean, people will already know the results of this by the time it's happened. But Inter on Wednesday have organised some medical tests for Icardi.
Yeah, tomorrow.
Yeah, to
How
see
embarrassing
how
is that?
bad his knee problem is. You know, it's almost, you know, and, you know, we'll have to see what comes out of it. You know, what happens if they find out that actually it's fine, and they say, you know, come on then, you're called up, and he says no. You know,
that would be the logical continuation of Keeping Up with the Kardashians, wouldn't it? Critty, you've been very, very quiet there. I know you have a lot to say.
Yes, but it would take like an hour for me to really get my truth out about this. I differ from Alex and Will, and probably most Inter fans, actually. I want him gone. I would love to see him go. I don't think that it is Inter being bullied into selling their prized asset. I think it's them getting rid of a cancer. I think it's cutting out a tumor. I need some. If you guys want to put some bids on some eBay, I got eBay going on. Some shirts with a certain player's name on them. So we'll talk offline. Just kidding. No, for real, I am selling them. Anyways, no, it's just I put myself in his shoes as far as having my wife represent me, and I get that. Like, my wife, I would have her represent me. On the flip side, though, my wife's not crazy, so, and would not go on TV spouting off a bunch of crap. So that's the other thing. Like, so I understand where, like, you want, like, there's no one you trust more than your wife, and so I totally can empathize with that. But at the same time, the things that she says are so detrimental to him and this club and the situation and his relationship with the club. And you know that he is feeding off of what she's saying, that maybe if Mauro was single or you know, they weren't so involved as a husband, wife, and client, client, whatever, client attorney privilege type of thing, like business, whatever, it might not be. It might not be in this situation, you know, if he was making his own mind up, or but you know, she's making a lot of the decisions for him. We know that. I mean, she's a businesswoman, and she's doing what the dollar bill says, or the euro says, or whatever you want to call it. So, you know, I was waiting to see what was going to happen against Rapid, and more specifically, waiting to see what was going to happen against Sampdoria. And Inter, I was thoroughly overjoyed by the results that we got over the week and the weekend. Was pleased to see that they didn't crumble, that they overcame adversity. I saw some players, as I said before, Perisic, that looked like they had been missing MIA for 6 months and came out of his shell, and there was fight in this team. So they're not going to go quietly into the night, and that showed me that they can win without him, that they don't need him. He is a 150 million euro problem that we can get rid of. We can easily bank 150 for him and get somebody else. We can't find. You mean to tell me we can't find a number 9 or somebody to replace the scoring for 150 million euros? I don't believe that. I believe there's somebody out there. You know, this is you would never see a Philipp Lahm act this way as the captain. No way. Bastian Schweinsteiger, no way. This is unbecoming.
I
Of the
mean,
captain.
Zanetti. I mean, whoever you want to call it. I mean, I can't even remember last time any agent of a captain behaved this way. Ed,
Do we know? Does anyone know the name of Javier Zanetti's agent?
no, because I don't think he had one or something. No, he had a lawyer, obviously. But
Yeah.
I really don't. I really
But that's
can't remember.
that's the point. We never saw his agent.
Ed, what do you think? What is your 2 cents on where we go
For a
from
start, Javier Zanetti wouldn't even let his wife touch his hair. I remember from one interview.
here?
Not saying that her.
He
Sorry?
didn't let anyone touch his hair. I mean,
No,
it was-
exactly.
except for
exactly.
That's probably why it
except-
never changed for 20 years.
well, I mean, he had
Yeah.
didn't he have like a Milanista barber who he stayed with for the whole time, and like that's the guy. He met him the first week he was there. They got along well, and since then he cut his hair like at that place every Wednesday at that time. You know, it's like it's really funny, and the guy is a Milanista, and it's one of those really funny things. It's a really nice story. It's very typical Zanetti, very down to earth. You know, they joke about the derby and give each other jibes, and like it's all very Zanetti. Right? And, no, but Ed, what do you think? I mean,
I think I've got. You guys can talk all you like about this. Here's what I have to say. It's better to keep your mouth shut and appear stupid than open it and remove all doubt.
Open quote, Mark Twain quote.
Mark Twain.
Yes, it is.
Or was that Abraham Lincoln? Who was that?
No,
Yeah, isn't that a fake quote as well?
Yes, Mark Twain never said that. I mean, that's a simple Google search will tell you that. And it's like that drove me absolutely up the walls. It was like as if this whole thing, and that's another. I mean, I didn't even want to get to this, but you open Pandora's box here. This infantile teenage Instagram posting, YOLO posting, when you're sitting sulking in your room because mommy and daddy didn't let you go to that cool kids party, is just embarrassing. It is it's unbefitting of an adult who has 2 children. That's my 2 cents on that behavior.
Nima, the funniest thing was the people that were on Twitter trying to argue about something. It was they didn't even you were saying that it was the Mark Twain quote that wasn't, and they were arguing something completely different with you. So it's not even that; it's the context of what was said, and then people arguing something completely different. Like that was the ultimate just worst posting of last week was that what we're talking about right now. Terrible.
Yeah, and posting photos of your upper body covered in tattoos on Instagram with the caption that is just what was it? It was no, that was the second part. What was it? Confuse them with your silence? No.
Yes.
Confuse them with your silence and shock them with your actions or something. It's like, this is Mauro. Yeah, this is Mauro, 14 years old. He's gonna. I mean, it was so emo. It was so emo.
Sí, confúndelos con tu silencio, sorpréndelos con tus acciones. Exactly what you said.
It was. But that's just that's just who he is as a person, and that's whatever. Inter knew that when they made him the captain, so that's completely beside the point. But I mean, do you think Inter, get? I mean, do you think he stays?
No, I really hope he doesn't. I think. I've heard arguments on both sides, but really keeping a guy like this, he's just become, cancer. You can call him what you want, really. He's just a weight. He's a chain. Most of the dressing room doesn't seem to be able to stand him even. Like, it appears that I think only the Hispanic speakers really seem to get on with it. The Spanish speakers seem to get on with him. Everyone else didn't want him as captain. So it's just like GTFO, buddy. Like, I mean, I'm even starting to wonder, beyond the morale boost of not having this guy around, which seems to be a thing, but I don't know. Can a football team really still play with like a striker who does F all, except for and I defended this guy for years, but I'm wondering if we, contrast this to the Bologna game, you just had one guy in there and you were just pumping the ball in and nothing was happening, and basically I wanted to have my nipples clamped by the end of that one. So what are we doing here? My only problem is how much are we going to get for him? That's my only question. Which
I don't know. Since I don't judge people, some people like their nipples clamped. Did you want to get them clamped because?
I don't mean. Oh no. People can do exactly what they want. I mean, done on me without anesthetic, that kind of thing. Also, why can't people ever get good tattoos?
Like, is there such? Look at that selection of tattoos, including Wanda, who just looks awful in it, actually, on his left arm. But my only thing is, I think there was a lot of debate about price, and I think my problem with that would be keeping him around would be even more expensive, just in terms of another year of just utter frustration. Because at this stage, I've defended this man more than most, I think, but I've just completely had enough. And the thing is, mea culpa. I thought her going on Tiki Taka wasn't a bad idea because I don't think she's a stupid person. She's got interesting things to say sometimes. Clearly not in this case, obviously, but I was wrong about that. There were signs of when she became his agent that she was being overbearing already at Piano, sorry. And no, I ignored that, and I'm paying the price, and I think we all are. God.
So real question for everyone, real quick. Since that was something interesting was just brought up about his price tag. Is this hurting what we're going to get in return for him, or does Real Madrid really care?
No, I think that depends on Suning, in my opinion. Suning have shown that they are perfectly willing to let him rot on the bench until 2021 or whenever his contract expires if they don't get paid. Just look at the Perisic situation. I mean, I am so glad we have Suning, because if it weren't for Suning, Perisic would have gone for 2 bananas and 3 big green beans. I mean, he'd be out there for a long, long time. But thank God we're not in that situation anymore. We have Suning, and they don't budge. Which I think Manchester United and everyone who's been and Arsenal can attest to regarding Perisic. I don't think so. They will not let him leave unless they get what they want. It's just that simple. That's my 2 cents on it. I don't know.
Yeah, it makes sense. I mean, for example, not selling Icardi to Napoli, 3 summers back, that was just almost a question of status. Even though Napoli have almost always been better than us since we won the Champions League, it was just like, what, we sell to them now? I don't know. Yeah. I know this is maybe petty, but the idea that we just sell Mauro to someone who's better than us, either in Italy or was just irritating. Overseas, yeah, by all means. I think you could get rid of him if you bring in someone bigger.
I think Marotta's comments were just explained that just said everything right.
Loved it.
I mean, I loved it too. I mean, when he says that, Paratici says that we'll see what happens to Icardi in June. Yeah, we'll see what happens to Dybala in June. I mean, I have no problem whatsoever to send Icardi for Dybala. I absolutely love Dybala, and I think that's I don't see him leaving. If my money, if he were to ask me, yes, I think he will leave. No, I don't want him to leave because I think the quality is still there, but I think it's untenable, and I've said this for a long time. I think this with her being his agent, she doesn't know what she's doing. You see, that's the thing. I don't, she wants to make it into a feminism issue that it's women agents who are the problem. No, women agents aren't the problem. This is a competence problem. You have none. That's the issue here. Wanda has no competence as an agent. She doesn't know what she's doing, and she's created a complete shitstorm for no reason, and it's hurting her only client. And that's where we are. And for me, that's the issue here. I do not, and since he's decided to back her up the way he has, he's put all his eggs in that basket, and now he has to face the music. So the way I see it is I think they will find a way to reconcile for the end of the season. I even think they might find a contract extension. Like, I'm not even putting that out of the picture, but I definitely think that when the summer comes, they will all try to part ways, because I think this experience has taught everyone that this is just not working. This is just not working.
Like you said, the fact that he's siding with her is totally comprehensible. That is his wife, La Familia. I get that.
Yeah.
It's the fact that she's spouting nothing but bull crap. Like you said, the incompetency of it. It's not very good advertisement for her firm if she wants to get more clients, because if they're all going to have to go through this bull crap, then who's gonna want to sign on with the Wanda Sports Agency LLC .com. But yeah, I mean, it's that's the problem right there, Nima. You hit it on the head. It's not about obviously we're all going to side with family. That's first. But I mean, it's the fact if your family is in the wrong and creating problems for you, and you don't see it, you don't act on it, you just let it happen, then yeah, it's your career that's ultimately going to suffer, not anyone else's. Inter will fix it if he doesn't fix it.
Agreed. Right, let's not waste too much time here. We've spent like almost half the pod talking about this, and it's understandable. It is a crazy situation, but there is some football going on as well. Whilst this sideshow goes on, and we do play Rapid Vienna on Thursday in the Europa League. And as we said, I mean, let's not dwell too much about this. All our predictions were, I think, confirmed about the first leg. Rapid Vienna are not a good team. They're a team that are at least 2 levels lower than Inter, and even at home with a fanatic and incredibly good crowd. I mean, I was really impressed by their crowd and the noise they made and their choreographies or tifos they made and all that stuff. I thought it was pretty cool. But they don't have a leg to stand on against Inter, and I think Inter, even with 50%, should be able to see this off. I think we'll see a 0-0 draw even, or a 1-0 win again. I don't think Inter will. I think Inter will control this game. What are your predictions, Alex? Quickly.
I actually go for a little bit more comfortable. I go 2-0 Inter victory. I'll go for a brace for Martinez. I think he's going to have a nice game at striker this week.
Will, what are your predictions?
Well, Luciano Spalletti said on Thursday evening, when things seem easy for us, that's when they become difficult. Quando le cose sembrano facili, per noi diventano sempre difficili.
He's actually 100% right.
Yeah. I don't feel entirely comfortable about this game, I must say, because he's right. But Rapid Vienna are, on the other hand, crap. So...
No, they are. They really are a poor team. I mean, let's not beat around the bush.
Yeah, I mean,
so what do you think?
Oh, I think 1-0. I think it will be. I reckon they'll have chances. It'll get a bit scary, but we'll go through 1-0 and then we'll go out in the next round. To be honest.
Yeah, that's pretty much where I am. Will.
Yeah,
it's like you read my mind.
Yeah.
Ed, what do you think? Just quickly.
Yeah, some sort of unconvincing win, 2-1 along those lines. And people questioning Spalletti very quickly. Well, that quote there just shows that he's completely grasped and lived through the existential torture that is supporting this team. That is such an I am an Interista quote. Like
it really is.
He is one of us.
He said it after Parma as well. They were like, yeah, this is the turning point. And he was like, no, si vola bassissimo.
Yes.
Staying right on the floor. Let's keep it the lowest profile possible because I've been burnt by this team too often.
And to be fair, he just seems to be quite a gloomy personality. Like, I see him when he hangs up the old clipboard. He's probably just going to, take his seat in the fucking San Siro every Sunday and just bitch about the team. I can totally see him do that. It'd be amazing.
Well, which is kind of what he does on the sidelines. Have you seen him? Have you seen how he talks and moves? He looks like all the angry 60-plus men sitting up on the second tier, waving and shaking and looking like they're going to have a heart attack. So what do you think, Ed? Did you predict? Did you give a result prediction for the?
For Thursday, 2-1, I think.
2-1, cool. Critty, what's your?
It's gonna. So Rapid's 5th or 6th place in the Austrian Bundesliga at this time. So it's too easy for us to win 1-0. It'll be 1-1. David Hasselhoff will score for Rapid Vienna.
David Hasselhoff.
And Perisic scores for Inter. He's the drought finally comes to an end. We go through 2-1 on aggregate, no problem, into the round of 16. We'll see you in a few weeks.
Fair enough.
But can I interrupt? Can I very quickly interrupt and talk about the Rapid Vienna player who's looking for girls in Milan on Tinder?
I was literally just about to say the same thing. I just put it up on my phone.
Sorry, what?
Philip Schobsberger, I think, is his name. Go on to Fulvio's profile. He's retweeted it. He's got a Tinder profile. It says, "Looking for my
No, stop! You're making this up. This cannot be true.
Philip,
100% true, baby.
Looking for my model. Just here for 2 nights, so better be quick."
Oh my God, I'm gonna die.
And it's a picture of him playing with Asamoah in the game last week.
Go away. Stop lying. This cannot be true. This cannot be true.
Wait, Nima, I'm going to retweet it as well, but it's on Fulvio's
I've just retweeted it, yeah. I mean, it could be a fake. We don't know. But, it seems like quite a weird thing to fake.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna go on Twitter and I'm gonna add the tweet into this. This is the best thing I've heard in a long time. It's hilarious. Jesus Christ, millennial footballers never change. Right.
Imagine Armando Picchi doing that when the Inter went away.
No, I can't, and we'll get to that too. Right.
No,
But
Paquetti was doing that back in the 60s, remember?
Jesus Christ. Who are these people? What are no, don't get me going. Right. Oh my God. Yeah. So we on maybe
Sunday, Nima. Sunday. Refocus.
Sunday. Thank you. Sorry, I just completely you completely
Sunday 7:30.
7:30 p.m. UK time,
Match.
8:30 p.m.
Football.
CET. Yes, 8:30 CET Italy time, 7:30 UK time, and God knows what else in other time zones. Inter play a very difficult game against Fiorentina, and a Fiorentina who, in my opinion, is probably is probably the most informed team when it comes to attacking. They score goals just for fun. I mean, if you look at Pioli's career, he always seems to get like these kind of super highs, 3-4 games where his teams completely destroy all opposition, and then they revert back to kind of a more normal situation. I mean, you beating Atalanta 7-1, Roma 7-1, 4-1 Spal, all that stuff. They're in the middle of their Pioli high, if you will, and they're playing an Inter at home in Florence, which I think will cause Inter all sorts of problems. I think this is a game where Inter need to be focused from the first minute, and this is a ground Inter struggle on. But I think no matter what happens, there will be goals, and there will be loads of goals. Alex?
I don't feel as optimistic about this one as I did for the Rapid Vienna on Thursday. I think this is a match Inter will lose probably 3-1 or 3-2. And it's going to start, even with a loss, no matter who else wins, they'd still be in third place. But they will be clinging to third place, and this will cause a lot of that banter to come up. I do think that the wheels come off of this little mini winning streak on Sunday.
I hope you're wrong, but I think you're right. That's all I'm going to say. Will?
Big weekend. Milan-Empoli, Frosinone-Roma. Fiorentina Inter. It's a weekend where points could be lost. So you could flip it and say if we win this game, then it's a very, very positive weekend. It's an opportunity to gain a bit more ground because we have to do that. We've still got to play all of the rest of the top 8, which is obviously 7 games because we can't play ourselves. So when you take 4 points from Sassuolo, Torino, Bologna, Parma, this is the trade-off. You have to get points against the bigger teams. I think it's a very difficult game. I think that the approach that we saw on Sunday makes me confident that we can get something from it, that we can win it. I don't necessarily agree that there's going to be a lot of goals. If you look at our most recent results, Sunday was the first time in 2.5 months that we've scored more than 1 goal in the league. De Frey was incredible. Fiorentina are in good form, but let's remember that with 12 minutes left on Sunday, they were losing 2-1 to Spal. For a few seconds, and that game could have really turned the other way had it not been for VAR, which quite rightly reversed the penalty call that was missed. Fiorentina had a lot of draws this season. They're the most, I think, with Torino. They've had 11. They're a difficult team, as you say. We always struggle on that ground. Last year was painful. The performance we put in there. We were about to steal a win until. Fiorentina scored right at the end, and then Spalletti came out and said, even my grandmother knows we're missing a centre back.
Oh yeah, that was that. It was that game.
Yeah, that was right in the middle of into slump. So I think it'll be better than that. But I mean, the good news for this match is that Lautaro is available because Keita seems to be taking longer than we thought. It's not a dead set. He'll be in that game, and Icardi, obviously, we're expecting, unless something dramatic happens in the next few days, he probably still won't be involved. So, but Lautaro on Sunday was a booking away from a suspension. So we could have been in real trouble if he picked up a yellow against Samp. We could have had to play, Politano up front in a weird false 9 paradigm. So that gives me a little bit more hope that something something could happen. But yeah, it's the toss of a coin. But this team had a lot of fire in its belly on Sunday. So let's hope that they can pull something out. But it will be it'll be close.
Cool. So what do you predict there?
Ooh, I'm going to say 2-1. I'm going to be optimistic because I don't know. I didn't really expect anything on Sunday, so I can't say that it was necessarily a surprise to see them play well. But I was encouraged by it. It was comforting signs. Who's going to score? I don't know. Nainggolan will score again. Chiesa will score for Fiorentina, and someone else will score. I don't know. Yeah, someone. Brozovic.
Okay, cool. Ed, what are your thoughts and prediction?
I don't think Inter are quite ready to turn the corner. We have seen some progress, but Fiorentina are a scrappy side. I mean, one thing I'll say is that Fiorentina haven't beaten us since Pioli took over there. And fun fact, the last time they did beat us was that awful 5-4 game. Yeah, late in Pioli's reign. That was...
That was an odd evening.
It was a weird
game. Very weird game, wasn't it?
That was when we were 2-1 up at half time.
Yeah,
yep.
It was
and
so
then
weird.
Icardi scored a hat trick, and he lost.
And Vecino scored twice, didn't he? Or did he just score once? I don't remember.
I don't.
Yeah, he scored for Fiorentina.
Yeah.
Okay, so what are your predictions then?
I see a sort of scrappy draw, but us being Inter, I think Benassi's going to score against us. I'm pretty sure unless he's still... I think he was fine last weekend. But having also not scored in a day and an age, it'd be just perfect if he came and scored against us.
Either that or Biraghi.
Yeah.
Oh, God, Biraghi. Oh, he's actually turned out to be a good player.
Yeah, typical, isn't it? Critty, what are your predictions and what are your?
This is kind of historic. I've never heard Alex pick us to lose, so that's a first. So I'm kind of still shocked from that. So I haven't recovered.
I think that kind of tells you how pessimistic I am about this matchup. You're right. I think I predicted a couple of draws. I don't know if I've ever predicted a loss on Studio Inter. This is the first.
That's right. That's what I'm thinking. So Alex is taking over the role of Critty today, and Critty's going to be Mo.
Sorry. I'm not letting that happen. I'm not comfortable with this.
Hey, so Nima, the thing is about Pioli, we all saw this. We know him well. Yes, you can occasionally have the match where you beat Sampdoria 5-0 when Inter did it under Pioli's reign 2 years ago. And you get this nice little streak going, and then all of a sudden it comes crashing back down to earth like the hot air balloon that just lost all of its luster and glory, and just bam, is done, and then you never recover, and then he gets the sack. So, I'm gonna go. I don't want to say that it's going to be this match, but they have their weaknesses in defense, and Inter, if they can have that grit and grind sort of game they had last week, and just grind out results. Things I don't believe right now are going to necessarily be pretty for us. I think it's going to have to be constant forward movement, across here, across there, good player movement, good ball movement, set pieces, focus on attacking the goal, keep the ball in the opposition's half. That kind of game where it just, the chances, the more you shoot, the chances are going to fall, and eventually you'll score. It's a grit and grind for us right now. It's not going to be sexy, beautiful football. It's going to be hard fought. It's going to be, kind of will over, our will over their will. So it's going to be interesting to see where this goes. But I believe that Inter can get a result in this. I'm going to go with a 2-1 result for Inter in this, and I think we will get the 3 points on the road.
I'm with Alex on this one. I think we're going to lose. I think we're going to lose 3-2. I think Federico Chiesa is going to score twice. I think Giovanni Simeone is going to score once and make 2 assists. And I think Lautaro is going to get 1, and D'Ambrosio is going to get 1 as well. But I think we'll lose 3-2.
If Giovanni Simeone scores, I'm going on the murdering spree. I just want you to know.
Well, if you
what did you do last year when he scored? Are you confessing something here?
Yeah, no. Let's not get.
Yeah, I would say that one thing that does play in Nima and Alex's favour is that this is the kind of game where you need a good subs bench because it's going to be a tight game, and to have someone who can come on and change the face of the game is very important. But considering that Icardi and Keita are both possibly going to be out, you're left with Candreva, Vicino, João Mario. That's kind of, or Salcedo. Spalletti goes mad and has a rogue moment. So. Or Ranocchio.
Well, you can always bring on
Ranocchio.
Ranocchio. Yes,
Yeah.
bring on Ranocchio as a striker.
Oh goodness. Yeah. So that could be a problem. It's important to start this game well.
Yeah, agreed. Right. Now let's move on to the part of the show where we walk down memory lane and we highlight and remember a player or a coach worthy of being branded Inter Legends. So it's time for Inter Legends with Mr. Critty Smith.
Non è un personaggio che può essere sostituito perché era un personaggio assolutamente unico. Il fatto che abbia sempre pensato e avuto nel cuore due colori, il nero e l'azzurro.
The great part about this segment is that there's never any drama and there's no debate over whether it's right or wrong. It's just always right. And that's because we're talking about Inter's best of all time. And today we are talking about some might argue he's the greatest player to ever play for us. I mean, that's you could. There's about 15 to 20 of those, but this guy in particular made 417 appearances between the years 1960 and 1977, scoring 116 goals. He's a European champion. Finished second in the Ballon d'Or in 1971. Runner-up in the 1970 World Cup with Italia. And I'm talking about none other than Sandro Mazzola. Another guy that was plucked at a very early age by Helenio Herrera to join the ranks of the Grande Inter squad of the 1960s. Mazzola is really one of the most prolific strikers in Italian history. He's 2014 Italian Football Hall of Famer. He's obviously Inter Hall of Famer by like a landslide. He should be a World Football Hall of Famer. The guy he did everything really there was to do except for win a World Cup. And really, honestly, you will be hard pressed to find many players that were as important to their club in the front of the pitch as Mazzola was to Herrera's Inter. So, Nima, I'll kick off with you. I rank this guy as one of the 10 most important players in Inter history. I think that, again, we talked about this a couple weeks ago. When you're talking about your Facchettis and you're talking about your Picchis, this guy spent nearly 2 decades with the same club. They don't know anything else. They have no idea about what it's like to play for another club other than Inter. And that's kind of a beautiful thing. I mean, when you think about it, it's really like, that is your identity. You're this symbol. Any of those players from that generation could be a symbol of the club. You could honestly put them in the crest or near the crest and say, he's just as much a representative as that FCIM inside of the crest, because that's all they really embodied. So, Nima, what are your thoughts as far as Mazzola, his importance, and how do you rank him in the history of Inter as far as not just strikers but as player?
I mean, he was. When you talk about the La Grande Inter, he was basically the goal scorer of Helenio Herrera's La Grande Inter. He was the son of Valentino Mazzola, who the captain of La Grande Torino, who so tragically died in the Superga accident. He was the mascot of the Grande Torino team. There's been some beautiful documentaries made about that. But for me, I mean, throughout this whole Inter, this mess with Icardi throughout this entire week, I just got a link to an article, to an interview Sandro Mazzola made this past week, where he was asked about the Icardi situation, and I think this it pretty much says everything. He was asked, when you played, did anything similar to what happened with Icardi played? And Mazzola says, no. During my time, we had Helenio Herrera. He was a coach that didn't joke around. Then you had Armando Picchi, who was the leader of Grande Inter. And when he saw that some player wasn't doing what he was supposed to, he looked him up and he put him in line. And that pretty much says everything you need to know about that team, that era, and what kind of a guy Sandro Mazzola is. I mean, Sandro Mazzola is a guy who no longer speaks to one of his own blood brothers, an actual brother, because he He claims that
Yeah.
because he claimed that Helenio Herrera drugged and put substances into his players' drinks to make them overperform. Something that Sandro Mazzola has denied and vehemently denied, and no longer is talking to his brother because of this. This is a guy who when you talk of one-man clubs, he was a one-man club player his entire life. He is without a doubt. I mean, that entire team of La Grande Inter were full with players who were Inter, from Facchetti to Picchi to Mazzola to Mariolino Corso. Loads of them. But you Tarcisio Burnik. You have. They don't make him like that anymore. But if you're going to put him into the grand scheme of things, I think Sandro Mazzola is maybe just quite just is up there with the Ibrahimovic's, with the Giuseppe Meazzas of goal scorers, with the Beccalossis, with the with Altobellis, when it comes to strikers that bled blue and black and who also scored goals.
So, Alex, what are your thoughts on Mazzola?
Well, you can't ignore the incredible trademark mustache, first and foremost, which he still rocks pretty nicely to this day. But, this is a man, I can't add a whole lot to what Nima said, but 17 years in the shirt, so many trophies won, including 4 Serie A titles. And you would kill for anyone on this current Inter to one day retire with 4 Scudetti under their belt. So you certainly hope that, a new era like that is coming. And, Mazzola, in the comments that Nima referenced about the captaincy and all that, he was a little bit humble to mention Armando Picchi, but Mazzola himself was captain of Inter for 7 years at the end of his career. So he's been on that side of it as well. Consummate professional. And, you guys all know that I put a lot of value on the one team player, because in today's society among athletes, it's something that is very much lost, whether you're talking about football or you're talking about basketball or even American football, that it's becoming more and more rare that great players stick it out with one club for a 17, 20-year career, the way that Mazzola did, where, his brand never got bigger than the brand of Inter. And, I guess you could say that the modern versions of that are very, very rare, but what he provided through the 60s and 70s was pretty remarkable, especially with the big spreads between the Scudetti that he did win. I think the first trophy he hoisted was in 1963, and then he won it in 1971. So much success he was a big part of during his time at Inter.
So, Will, comparing, what are your thoughts on comparing someone? Is it unfair to compare someone like Mazzola to Icardi because they're just generationally different, or can you compare them as far as their character and how they are as men and someone role models?
Comparing players from different eras is always a fool's errand, I think. The game, it's not just the sport that's different; it's the world is different. So I would stay away from that comparison. I mean, if you want a comparison as players, then you've got Inter's all-time goal-scoring charts, and it tells you that Mazzola is still a few goals ahead of Icardi.
Right.
At number 5, Icardi's at number 6 at the moment. So, I think as role models, this would require someone who had, who knew him better than I do. I know him as an Inter legend. I don't necessarily know what he was like on a daily basis. For sure, Icardi hasn't depicted himself as a brilliant role model in the last few days, if not for sort of emo teenagers looking for some nice filters on Instagram. So, it's. I would assume that he was the better role model, but I'd be sort of fumbling around in the dark for that. I mean, I think when you're in a team like he was in, I don't think Herrera would have permitted, sort of grumpy agents talking all the time. There's one thing we know about that team, was that there was a ridiculous discipline and an incredible respect for the rules. So in that sense, I'm sure Mazzola would have inspired many young players to take up football. So, but as you said, I mean, if Inter fans are annoyed this week about what Icardi has done, it's also because of him, because players like him who gave Inter the dimension that they now have today. You know, he really is one of the sort of cornerstones of in Inter's history. You know, he would be in chapter 1 or chapter 2 of a book of Inter's history. He would be in it. You know, so I think there's certainly no debate this week about, you know, is he a legend? Is he not a legend? He's the textbook definition. You know.
Ed, what are your thoughts on Mazzola?
I was, you were talking about top tens. I was probably thinking that if you had to have a Mount Rushmore of Inter players, I think he's up there. I mean, I think it's him, Zanetti, Facchetti, and for number 4, I am genuinely
Picky for me.
Picky?
Yeah,
that's a good choice.
For me, it's Picky. I mean, the captain of La Grande Inter, and because I mean, he embodied that team, didn't he? I mean, in his behavior on and off the pitch, he was who the club during that period decided should be the captain, and he was. So for me, it's him.
That's a really good choice. I was thinking someone modern, but I mean, I'm a little bit torn. But someone like
D'Ambrosio.
Obviously, Yuto-san, but
yeah, it's obviously Yuto Nagatomo.
Well, don't forget Eder.
Recency bias on my part.
I was going to say someone like Stankovic, but I digress.
Yeah, you know, Cambiasso wouldn't be far from that.
Cambiasso,
personally, my guy's Bergamy, I think, but I'm not sure.
Vampeta.
Oh, no. Legend.
If you do gay porn and you're a pro footballer at the same time, I mean, you gotta. You're
winning at life.
You're winning at life, exactly.
You're on the Mount Rushmore of life.
You're on the Mount Rushmore of life, right?
He was like Ronaldo, but without putting in any of the effort once he left Holland. Because didn't he play for Feyenoord as well, or did he play for PSV?
No, PSV.
No, he did.
He came from PSV, I think.
PSV, yeah. I think, one Dutch team, one of those Dutch clubs.
Yeah, no, he came from PSV, and he was a Brazilian national team player when he came.
Yeah.
So
by the time he left, he was, you know, not even good enough to play for Peru, probably. Like
he did gay porn. I mean, that's all you need to know. Right. Let's move on to the part of the show where we pay tribute, rip the piss out of, and make fun of someone or something in the world of football. Starting with this week's frog, which will be presented by Mr. Alex Beckman. Alex Donno.
È clamoroso! Autogol di Ranocchia!
I am Alex Beckman with this week's frog. So, and it goes
Should we do alternate words?
It's both. No, there's a reason this happened, and it's both of your fault. Because you both said in the WhatsApp group that you wanted to share it, and I just completely that stayed with me. So that's how
is pro Piacenza.
Go for it.
There you go. And why are they this week's frogs? So, okay, this part is unfortunate. They've just been booted from Serie C, but the circumstances that led up to that are quite remarkable. The club is in financial peril, so coaches and players have not been getting paid. So, as you can imagine, they haven't been showing up to games. They were one forfeit away from being booted from Serie C. So last weekend, they fielded the minimum 7 players you have to field to not forfeit. The problem was they didn't have real pro players. They had youth players, and even the 7th man on the roster, this is unbelievable. The 7th man on the roster was actually the massage therapist who literally had the number scotch taped onto his shirt. They lost 20-0, which may have actually been a good effort on their part to only lose by 20 goals. It turns out that result was actually changed into a forfeit, so they have been booted from Serie C. But just the idea of fielding 7 players, with most of them teenagers. One of them was an 18-year-old player coach, and one of them was the masseuse with a number scotch taped to his back. Bravo! That is so frog-worthy.
Yeah,
I think we should just. They played with 7 players and 8 players, because there's another thing that happened, that they turned up with 7 youth players, but before kickoff it became clear that one of the youth players had forgotten his identity papers, so his dad had to go home and fetch them. So he had to wait until the minute 62 to come on. So for the first hour, the physiotherapist had to go on. That's why he went on, because they needed 7, and he's like 38 years old and apparently slightly plump. So they ended up with 8 when he then turned up and had his identity papers. So it wasn't even a fair number, you know. They couldn't even decide how many people they wanted to lose 20-0 with.
Right. Speaking, the other half of the Alex Beckman, we'll move to the Moggi of the week, which will be presented by Mr. Will Donno.
Oh, I was tempted to try Alex's accent there. I think I'm going to stick clear of that one.
Yeah, go for it. Go for it.
No. I think that, I was torn between 2 things for this week's Moggi. One of them was Piacenza, because there is a very sorry, frustrating and embarrassing and disgraceful side to that story, because, you know, it's Italian football's descending into nonsense and its inability to enforce rules. Just one thing before I go on, there's a great article I saw this week on Tutto Mercato Web, where someone basically said, in Serie A, you have the most famous player in the world, and in Serie C, the physio is playing, which just sort of tells you how bizarre Italy's footballing system is in 2019, the paradox. But let's go on to the other Moggi. It's someone who's not an Inter legend, despite having played over 100 games for the club, Fulvio Collovati, who was a defender in the 80s, played for Milan as well, actually. He was on Rai Sport on Sunday evening, and they were talking about the argument of the week about Wandanara and all that nonsense. And at some point, he somehow thought it would be okay to say that women can't talk about tactics, and when they do so, it makes my stomach turn. And he has been today suspended by Rai for 2 weeks, which I think is extraordinary. So, you know, he's got a 2-week suspension, and then after that, fine, you can come back, which I think is rather scandalous. If we want to talk about punishments that don't fit the crime, then I think that's quite possibly one of them. He's obviously apologized on Twitter. No one actually believes him. And I was really shocked by this, because I must say, when I heard this audio on the radio without having heard what had happened, and I assumed that this was some kind of sort of regional crappy TV channel where they just get anyone on, and you know they don't actually get many viewers, and they're always saying rubbish. But then I found out it was him on Rai. I thought, wow, because it's very, I don't know about you, it's very rare that you get such open bigotry like that. You know, often it's kind of at least half-mast, whereas this is literally, women can't talk about football. It's the kind of thing I hadn't heard for a very long time. So it was incredibly shocking, and he fully deserves to be this week's Moggi. It was always going to take a special candidate to knock Mauro Icardi off this week's Moggi, but I think he's managed to do it. I mean, he deserves a lot more than 2 weeks of suspension, I think.
What an idiot. What a tool. Right, let's move on to something much more positive. This week's Moratti, which will be presented by Mr. Edoardo Dalmonte.
He works a lot, he's intelligent, and he surprises people sometimes with his ideas. Not easy to find one person of this qualities.
I'd just like to add on to that excellent piece about Collovati by saying that was exactly what that felt like. Maurizio Mosca would have said something like that, were he still alive.
Ezolino Capuano on TV Napoli or something something rubbish like that.
Oh man, you know, that was exactly, and it was on Rai, and it's just like, plus this is probably still the most interesting thing that Collovati's ever said in his TV career. Someone else pointed this out. I mean, I don't think he's ever made any comment that's like, oh wow, what a perceptive thing. Like, the people on Sky make him sound like a complete idiot. Say Boban.
Ed, focus.
Sorry. This is
a good Moratti. It deserves time.
A good Moratti deserves time. This man, I mean, I can't believe I'm saying this. We can't believe I'm saying this, but hey, It's my man Marotta, ladies and gentlemen. He is this week's Moratti. Incidentally, Moratti doesn't come off spectacularly well.
No, he doesn't.
No.
And Marotta had some shade for him as well. Beyond the fact that he's towed a strong line, that he's been both diplomatic but firm at the same time. Every time he's firm, mysteriously, this team that used to be a complete shithouse of people doing what they wanted under a certain president that we all love. But seriously, l'era del mecenatismo è finita, I think, was a great quote from Marotta, about Moratti. Like, enough of this protecting people, pampering people. There has to be a culture. And what a coincidence. The people who he's been the firmest with are suddenly performing. So we're talking Perisic, we're talking Nainggolan. Ladies and gentlemen, even when he went on tiki-taka, he looked, I was impressed that entire conversation didn't descend into a complete farce, which is exactly what the presenters of tiki-taka wanted. So yeah, I'm honestly rather impressed by a man who, when he was at Juve, was obviously public enemy number, 7 or 8, I think. So yeah, not bad. Well done.
No, excellent.
This week's Moratti is Marotta for insulting Moratti.
Moratti.
Yes.
No, but
it's incredible, isn't it?
I mean, it is a topsy-turvy world, and it is an upside down. Everything is upside down. It is. But he really is the Moratti of the week because, I mean, the way he's handled. The man has ice in his veins. The way he has handled this entire situation with the coolness, the calmness, the professionalism. I mean, talk about the right guy at the right place. Him and Suning are. I continue to say this. I think he's the best. I think they're the best thing to have happened to Inter since the treble, because they are just so consistent in what they want. They know exactly what they want. They deliver, and they set their goals, and they deliver, and they work towards them in a peaceful, in a calm and orderly fashion. And if it isn't like Moratti back in the day when he used to pamper. I mean, back in the day, I mean, one of the negative things was that the directors and the coaches didn't matter, because if Ronaldo or Recoba were unhappy with something, they called Daddy Moratti, who said, "Oh,
exactly.
Come on." That's not how a professional football club should be run. And it is now a professional football club, lo and behold. So, I think, I'm all on Marotta's side. And I think, he's been doing it fantastically, and long may it continue. Right.
This is a weird world.
It is. I mean,
exactly.
We have an 80s pop culture. We have an 80s pop culture reference, being the president of the United States in charge of all the biggest nuclear arsenal in the world. So yeah, it is a weird world. So let's.
But it's going to be in 10 years' time. It'll be the Marotta of the week.
Why not?
Oh my God! Imagine that.
We'd have the Moggi and the Marotta.
No, the Moggi will be the Icardi of the week.
Oh,
yeah. Just imagine
the Wanda of the week.
Oh God.
Marotta is the Moratti, and Icardi was almost the Moggi.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Yeah.
Right. I'd like to thank Alex for joining us all the way from Florida.
My pleasure, as always. Great time, guys.
Great time. And as always, thank you to Mr. Media Personality in London #1, Mr. Will Beckman.
Thank you, everyone. I'd like to wish Mauro Icardi the best of luck for his physical test tomorrow. Let's hope he's all okay.
And a huge thank you to Ed for joining us this first time this season. Don't be a stranger.
So glad, yeah. And it had nothing to do with Wondergate, actually. I just happened to be free.
Don't lie. You just love a bit of drama.
I just love a bit of drama. Oh, my God.
And thank you very much.
Call me Wanda. Call me.
And thank you very much, Mr. Critty Smith.
Forza Inter from the Carolinas.
As always, I'm your host, Nima Tavallaey, wishing you all a good week. 2 wins, 6 points, and sempre e solo Forza Inter.